Thank you very
As the
much.
proverb goes, 1 week is a long time in politics. Threats of future White House policy swings regarding Ukraine and its NATO member European allies remain as relevant as ever. The New York Times' latest revelations about the Trump campaign's repeated contacts with Russian intelligence and diplomats will unlikely do little to secure this uncertainty in the near future. The most high-profile figure in the spotlight, Michael Flynn, Trump's former national security advisor and one-time top-table banquet guest next to Vladimir Putin at a gala dinner organised by the Kremlin-funded network RT. But retired Army Lieutenant Flynn is not the only one under the scrutiny of the media and intelligence services. Paul Manafort, a former confidant of disgraced Ukrainian former President Viktor Yanukovych, and his ex-pro-Russian Party of Regions is also on the list. Last August, Ukrainian anti-corruption investigators said handwritten ledgers show $12.7 million worth of undisclosed cash payments were designated to Mr. Manafort from the Kremlin-backed Mr. Yanukovych. But in the press conference, President Trump appeared to be oblivious to Mr. Manafort's ties to Ukraine.
That's Mr. Manafort, who's, by the way, a respected man. He's a respected man. But I think he represented the Ukraine or Ukraine government or somebody. But people knew that. Everybody knew that. So these people, and he said that he has absolutely nothing to do and never has with Russia.
So as the future of post-Cold War geopolitical order remains in the balance, what will the future hold for Ukraine-US relations? We first asked Peter Zalmayev, a New York-based expert on international affairs.
I think it is too soon to prophesy doom and gloom for Ukraine. Things are changing. The scandals that we're seeing now with some members of the Trump administration implicated in contacts with the Russian side mean that, at least in the foreseeable future, it will be very difficult for Trump to do away with sanctions and to perpetrate this rapprochement.
Just days ago, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer said Trump expects the Russian government to, quote, de-escalate the violence in the Ukraine and return Crimea. But was this the real view of the White House?
I think this is completely just real views of President Trump. We should not expect that any sort of anti-Russian sanctions concerning Crimea would be lifted this very year, with only probable exception of personal sanctions, because they already discussed. There were some talks about Russian authorities about lifting personal sanctions against Russian politicians involved in the process of annexation of Crimea.
It's this sort of speculation over US foreign policy that Ukraine will have to deal with, at least for the next 4 years. This is Tom Bell for UATV.